Hello, welcome to my channel. This is a new channel that's going to be dedicated to building up my FXR. I don't even know a channel name or anything yet. I'm not a blogger. This is completely new to me. But I got this FXR and I figured I might be able to teach you all some things as I go through and build it. I know as I get on YouTube, I don't see a whole lot of FXR videos that are helpful. I see some build videos, like people who spend a lot of money, but like nitty-gritty details about things you might run into. That's what I'm going to try to get into. I want to get some things out of the way. First off, my garage is a mess. It's always going to be a mess. I apologize in advance. I'm probably not going to fix that for you. Second off, I'm always going to be dressed like trash because I live in Florida, and even though right now it's the middle of January, it's like 75, 80 degrees and it's really humid. You can see I'm already sweating. I've been out here for 30 seconds. So apologize in advance for the way I look. You probably see me wearing Crocs around the garage. This is just the way it's going to be. I don't know how often I'm going to upload videos. This, like I said, is pretty new to me. Maybe one a week, maybe one every 2 weeks, maybe if people start watching I'll do even more. But this is my first video for YouTube, and I just wanted to introduce myself and the bike. My name is Jake. This is my 1988 FXRS. I just got it a couple weeks ago, and even though it's a low mile bike, and I'll show some details here in a minute, even though it's a low mile bike, it has some things it needs. General maintenance, some oil leaks, and then just some updating. You see it's got some really ugly old man ape hanger bars on it. No offense, old man. Those are coming off. So I'll give you some close-ups, some details, and talk a little bit about what I'm going to be doing over these next couple videos. Alright, like I said, don't mind my absolutely filthy garage. I have parts everywhere, lots of camping equipment and stuff like that. But here's the bike. As I said, it's a 1988 FXRS. Supposedly, as you can see here, she's got about 8,300 miles on it, a little over 8,300 miles. I don't know if that's legit or not. The previous owner seemed to think that it was. I can believe it because it's not disgusting. If you look real close, oops, let me get this focusing here. If you look real close, the frame's clean. There isn't grime and dirt everywhere, especially, and this is what surprised me, if you look like at the wires and hoses and things for the oil lines, they're clean and they're not crispy. If you look at the motor, it doesn't really look like 9,000 miles. There's a lot of paint wearing off of it and stuff like that. Now, it is old, so it could just be that. I don't know. It runs pretty good for something that seems to be original. It doesn't really look like it's had anything major done to it other than some aesthetic things. It's got the original suspension on it. I already replaced some things like the pegs. Previous owner put an anti-gravity battery in it, which is great. You can see it's got a neat little system here for holding the battery in, all things that I'll address as time goes on. So overall, the bike looks really good, and it actually runs pretty good too. It does have air intake leaks, that I know already. I'll be addressing that as time goes on as well. But there's no major leaks. It doesn't puddle up on the floor. It did puke once when I first test drove it because the guy hadn't ridden it in a number of weeks, and as you know, these things, they can sump and then puke all over the floor. It hasn't done that since. My main leaks are rocker cover gaskets, more towards the front of this front cylinder. Every once in a while it'll drip down onto the exhaust and it'll smoke a little bit. Nothing that needs to be like addressed immediately, but something I definitely plan to fix. It's just kind of a more in-depth repair. So I haven't done it yet. So let me talk about what I have done. Pretty much nothing. So I put moto pegs on it, and these are just Amazon specials. I tried to do little things like this on the budget because I'd like to spend more money on the big things. So I don't need to put a thrash and supply pegs on, stuff that you're never going to see. That's great. If they ever want to send me some, I'll be happy to put them on, but I'm not going to buy them. I did buy a Saddleman step-up pleated seat for it already. It had a solo seat on it before that was extremely uncomfortable, so this helped out a lot. And the next thing I'm going to do is take these ape hanger bars off of there and put on some moto bars and some 9-inch risers. So that's what I'm going to be working on here in this very first phase. So let me talk about what I'm going to work on here in this first video. If you come from a Dyna, a newer Dyna like early 2000s or later, you're probably not used to seeing this mess. So, and granted, this one's a little bit worse because someone already did stuff. On later Dynas, all of the wiring harness kind of runs along the backbone or within the backbone, and everything just unplugs and it's super easy. In these older FXRs, everything kind of converges here in the headlight. So it's already intimidating. some prior owner put one of these Badlands like turn signal controllers for run stop turn function, which I do not want run stop turn function. I want my turn signals just to be turn signals, because that's an old man thing, and I want this bike to be slim and mean and modern. So part of what I need to do is figure out what exactly has been hacked up here. I can see that the original turn signal blinker module has been removed, or blinker relay, I guess, which I wouldn't be able to use anyway because I'm going to put LED lights on here, and I don't think I really work with that. So I messaged Badlands. This thing will work as a turn signal like blinker for LEDs, and also it'll help with timing. Like, it just stays on for 11 seconds and turns off, because if you don't know, on these old FXRs you have to hold down the blinker or the turn signal button in order for it to flash, and then when you let go it stops. So it's very kind of basic. So I may try to use this for the turn signal capability if I can figure out exactly what's been done. But my number one goal for this is to just detangle this and remove this entire unit, repair the wires that have been cut. And as you can see, some of these wires have been cut and shrink wrapped, and some of them have been cut and there's just electrical tape on it, which is no good. So I'm probably going to just repair the harness as it is and make sure that everything works, minus the flasher relay, which I don't have. And then if I can make heads or tails out of that, I may use this just for the turn signal function, like to time them and everything. So I'll have to see where I get with it, but I need to basically repair all this. They do kind of work, however this is hooked up, and I can tell you, right off the bat, I know it's not hooked up correctly. They do work, the turn signals do turn on sometimes, and sometimes they don't. So it tells me something's not quite right in there. So I'm going to have to figure that out. Now, the reason I have to do this is because in order to change the risers and handlebars, I have to take the controls out. And they did run the control wires through the bars, which is great. That looks nice and clean, but I'm going to take these risers and handlebars off. And in order to do that, I need to depin them from in here, so that way I can pull the wires out and rerun them through my new bars. But it's hard to depin them if I can't make sense out of what's going on. So that's kind of where I'm at. This first stage here is going to be doing that, rewiring the headlight bucket, making sure everything works, removing the handlebars, putting new risers on. The one thing that I have done to try to make this whole process a little bit easier is I did download the FXRS, well, I should say, I printed out the FXRS wiring diagram. There's a lot already on here, so it's kind of hard to see things, but I did try to trace out the turn signal circuit, so I have an idea of what I'm looking for, and I have the wire colors on here as well, so that should help a little bit with me trying to get rid of that mess. I'll see how much help it ends up being. Now, I wasn't going to record too much of me actually working on this because there's not a whole lot to see, but I just had to show you what I'm dealing with here. Sorry if it's not totally focused, but you can see there's wires stripped back, and then other wires just sort of wrapped around, no solder, no connectors. There was just electrical tape on that joint. Why do people do this? Like, all these old Harley dudes, again, no offense, just like hacking this stuff up and doing like the worst possible job you can. Just because the company includes an instruction manual doesn't mean that you should do it. So, I mean, and I got purple wires connected to brown wires. I happen to know browns for the rear generally and purples for the front, or left or right or something, but that doesn't really match. By the way, I did disconnect the battery in case you're wondering why I'm touching all this stuff. I'm not really worried about 12 volts, but I don't want anything to spark, so I did disconnect the battery. Okay, I made a little bit more progress with this. I actually was able to completely remove that Badlands unit, which sorry for this going out of focus. I'm new to this. I gotta figure out why it's not auto-focusing. But sorry, I digress? Digress? Is that the right word? I'm not good at English. What was I saying? If there's one thing I can possibly give credit for to whoever hacked up this wiring harness, one thing they at least did was when they spliced into these wires, instead of cutting the wires and like attaching 3 wires together, they just pulled the sheathing back and they like wrapped the wire around it. So I don't have to track down where these wires go, they're still connected. Now what I need to do is just put some shrink wrap around these. I don't use electrical tape, which is still a pain because I got to depin every one of these and slide the shrink tubing on there. So there's that. At least it's making it a little bit easier. As I de-hack some of these wires. It's not quite as intimidating as it looked originally, so hopefully as I get a little further it'll be a little bit easier. Really what I'm trying to do right now is get rid of some of the mess. Sorry, there's a FedEx truck going by. Get rid of some of the mess, and then the two big bunches of wires on each side are what go up to the handlebar controls. And so I need to figure out where those go, depin them, so I can pull the handlebar controls out. So that's where I'm at. Stay tuned. Alright, quick update. A lot of time has gone by. Not a lot of time has gone by. I've been working at this for about an hour, is what I meant to say. It ended up being a little bit harder than I wanted it to because all the controls were stripped out. Like, all 4 bolts to take the brake levers and everything were stripped out, so I had to drill them. Can't really show you because I already threw it all away, but in order to get all the controls off, I had to drill out screws because they were all stripped. Like, someone replaced them with some real soft stainless steel bolts. So that was difficult as it was. The second thing that was difficult, see if I can get a picture here, was up in the handlebar, the hole that goes back in it to run the wires through is actually really small. Even though these are fat bars, where they come out here at the bottom, so I can get a focus here, where they come out at the bottom, it's really small, so I had a hard time pulling the cable through. I had to feed it like little by little. So I just have one more side of the controls to take off right here, which I'm hoping will come out easily. Hopefully none of these screws are stripped. But if you look at what I got in the headlight here, to get those controls out, unlike a late model Dyna, in order to get the handlebar controls out, you have to actually depin it from here. You can't just unplug it. On newer bikes, there's 2 plugs, one for the right, one for the left, and then you can depin those plugs and pull the wires out real easily. Unfortunately, on this one, it's just one big fat 12-pin plug in the middle, and they both kind of connect in there, and then they kind of connect in here, and they kind of connect. They're like all over the place. It's really confusing. Then on top of that, a bunch of these connectors, and you can't see them because I pulled them all out, but a bunch of these connectors actually have like little jumpers that run in between the pins. So you got to see if I can show you. You got to be real careful. Let's see. It's probably not going to focus on it, but let's see. Well, you get the idea. There's a little tiny jumper. I can't get the focus. It runs in between those pins. So you got to carefully pull those out. Don't lose them because you'll need them. And then you can actually pull the pins out and pull everything through. Now that everything's out, I'm about to pull this whole chunk of wires out. This is the next set of controls. All right, you can see they're separated. I've already disconnected the front turn signals. All that's really left here is this one main harness, which seems to be intact other than you can see where it's been spliced into. So I'm going to take some time to depin it and every single one of these one by one and run shrink tubing over it and basically return this to normal. Also, I looked at the wiring diagram, and these 4 sets of wires here at the top don't seem to be in the correct order. The wiring diagram shows this blue wire over one pin, so I need to figure out what that's for and confirm that. I'm hesitant to move it because it doesn't look like the guy moved anything off this harness, but who really knows? Being that they like cut and spliced into wires, obviously they didn't know how to depin the connectors. So, and then 2 of these wires went to the headlight, the high beam controls up on the handlebars, and these were just twisted together and then shrink wrapped, which is fine. My first thought was to solder them back together. When I put it back together, the problem is if I ever want to take the handlebars off again, you have to depin it from this headlight connector, and it's really hard to get these big connectors through the handlebars. So I might actually put butt connectors or bullet connectors on these to make it easy to take the handlebars off in the future. I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when the time comes. So I'm going to pull the other side controls off and then try to repair any of the damage that was done here and just kind of pretty it up. I think for the moment I'm not going to put that Badlands unit back in because there's just too many wires, and the way that it connects is not how this normally worked. I don't know how to explain it. So, and I don't want to splice things in. I think I'm just going to get a LED flasher unit, stick it in there, and just use this bike like it was intended to be in 1988, where you hold the button down. That's fine. That's actually pretty cool, in my opinion. Alright, another quick update. So, as you can see, I got those ugly bars completely off. And the rabbit hole continues. As I took off the headlight bucket, I found more wires back here that are just sort of disconnected. Here, disconnected and wrapped up. So it looks like those went to the original turn signals. These turn signals are wired directly into that Badlands unit, so obviously they disconnected whatever the original means was and just left it there. So my next steps are, now that everything's off, I am going to clean this up and, as I mentioned before, put shrink wrap on everything, and then also figure out how the turn signals are supposed to hook up to this original harness and do that. I gotta kind of figure out how I'm going to do the turn signals, because I'm not using these, and I don't know if the ones I'm going to use, if I'm going to mount them on these. You stick out really far, they're not real sleek. I got those little, let me see if I have them here. I don't know if I have them handy. Oh no, they're over here. Let's see. I got in my pile of parts, I think, yeah. So I got some of these little tiny deals like this, specifically for the front. So I think I could theoretically mount these onto these posts. I'd have to drill a hole in the back for the wire to run out, because the wire on these actually runs through the post. I'll have to play around with that a little bit more, and then I guess these actually plug into the back of the headlight technically. Well, that's what they're supposed to do. So we'll figure that out. But I have new bushings, alloy art bushings, that are going to go in the front end. So I'm gonna probably clean up the tree a little, put the bushings in, and at least get the risers on, maybe in the next video. And then, yeah, I got a lot more work to do with the wiring here, so I'm gonna take care of that first, since that's kind of top priority. I may, just to get the mess out of the way, just take these blinkers off, including the brackets, and just move them out of the way so I can have just a nice clear view. It helps, even if I end up putting them back on, or at least the mounts. But yeah, so cleaning this up is next, restoring things to the way they were, and then I'm going to have to order an LED turn signal relay to replace the one that was pulled out of there. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to use this Badlands unit again. It's just, it's too much. I appreciate what it is supposed to do. It's too many wires for what I need, which is, I just want to be able to push the button and have my turn signals turn on. Or, in the case of an old FXR, hold the button down and have the turn signals turn on. I haven't even got a chance to, like, see what those are going to look like. Oh man, that's going to be beautiful. So these are Forbidden Moto. I assume some kind of billet deal. So, well, let's just set up a little bit further than that. So those are going to look real nice. Be a nice upgrade to what was on it before. Yeah, anyway. So, thanks for joining again. Like, comment, subscribe. Hope you're interested in what I've been doing here. And we'll see you on the next one.